Thank you for watching our channel. We look forward to seeing you again soon. Our focus today is on one of the most thrilling aspects of Jujutsu Kaisen, Kenjaku's domain expansion. As a quick refresher for those unfamiliar with the series, or needing a quick introduction, domain expansion is one of the most powerful techniques used by sorcerers in the series. The next step is to unravel the mystery and power behind Kenjaku's domain expansion, its impact on the storyline, and its strategic implications for Jujutsu Kaisen's battles. Let's get started now. Take a seat, relax, and enjoy. A Jujutsu sorcerer can employ domain expansion as one of their greatest weapons in Jujutsu Kaisen. This technology allows a user to extend their cursed techniques into the real world, enhancing them greatly. An important part of this technique is controlling cursed energy, making it a complex and difficult skill to master. Domain expansion is fundamentally a barrier technique, but it extends beyond simply trapping opponents. A Jujutsu sorcerer can create a unique environment within their domain expansion that reflects their abilities and personalities. Depending on the location, it could be a peaceful beach or a sea of magma with raging volcanoes. An expansion of a domain appears to those outside the domain as a black ball or dome. Tenjin and Yuki Tsukumo engaged in a strategic battle before Kenjaku expanded his domain. In order to defeat Kenjaku, Yuki and Tenjin devised a plan that involved Kenjaku opening his domain, thus draining his cursed technique. Tenjin had 10 seconds to dispel Kenjaku's domain by analyzing simple domain and holding out for 10 seconds. Yuki would beat Kenjaku if everything goes according to plan while he replenishes his cursed technique. Tenjin and Yuki were caught off guard by Kenjaku's domain expansion. Tenjin had some leverage over Kenjaku due to the setting of their battle. To force Kenjaku to use his domain expansion, they opened a domain expansion in a space already controlled by Tenjin. Tenjin was unable to remove the outer boundary of Kenjaku's domain expansion, whose name is Womb Profusion, because a barrier was not closed. Tenjin's sudden attack chipped away at Yuki's new shadow style, simple domain almost instantly, forcing her to attack while hoping Kenjaku would dispel his domain as quickly as possible. Kenjaku is a formidable opponent for Yuki Tsukumo and Tenjin. In order to make Kenjaku use his domain expansion, they used a number of strategies. To keep Kenjaku busy for 10 seconds, Yuki had to survive Kenjaku's domain while Tenjin neutralized it from outside. Yuki could defeat Kenjaku once his cursed technique was depleted after Kenjaku's domain was forcibly closed. In addition to performing simple domains, Yuki could also perform domain expansions. While in conflict with Kenjaku, she resisted expanding her domain in response to Tenjin's suggestion. Tenjin was unable to dismantle Kenjaku's domain without expanding. As part of the strategy, Kenjaku's domain was gradually weakened before the final blow was delivered. Yuki and Tenjin's plan to dispel Kenjaku's barrier, less domain expansion, was disrupted. However, when Kenjaku also used a barrier-less domain expansion, Tenjin was not able to remove Kenjaku's outer boundary because the barrier was not closed, resulting in Womb Profusion. Almost immediately, this unexpected move began chipping away at Yuki's new shadow style, simple domain, forcing her to attack while hoping that Tenjin would quickly dispel Kenjaku's domain. A pivotal and chilling scene occurs when Kenjaku reveals his Womb Profusion domain expansion. To match Yuki Tsukumo's fighting style, Kenjaku decides to expand his domain in the midst of his battle against Yuki. It is a horrifying spectacle to see the expansion of the domain, Womb Profusion, an array of tormented souls scream, surrounded by what appears to be mutilated corpses stitched together, where darkness sprouts like tree branches from their extremities. This cursed tree contains several humanoid figures, lying in the fetal position, tears of black blood flowing down their faces. Sukuna and Kenjaku are the only two characters capable of expanding their domains without enclosing the outer shell. As Kenjaku left the Womb Profusion open, he effectively made Tenjin's space his own, leaving no inner barrier to be destroyed. Tenjin quickly dispelled Kenjaku's domain, forcing Yuki to battle, while hoping that this unexpected move would chip away at her new shadow style. Simple domain. Sukuna is the only other character from Jujutsu Kaisen who has the ability to expand his domain without enclosing the outer shell. As a result of this ability, he developed a technique called Womb Profusion. Tenjin or any other character can't remove the outer boundary of Womb Profusion, as it has no outer boundary. In contrast to typical domain expansions, which involve creating a barrier and imbuing it with cursed methods. This is a significant departure. Kenjaku's domain expansion lacks an outer barrier, allowing him to effectively claim Tenjin space. As a result of cursed spirits, Kenjaku's domain takes the form of a giant pillar. As a result of activating womb profusion, grotesque cursed spirits with protruding heads appear on a totem pole. It is unclear how Kenjaku's cursed technique affects this domain expansion and why it releases powerful blasts at certain intervals. The anti-gravity system and body swapping are three of Kenjaku's cursed techniques that can be infused into womb profusion. Yuki Tsukumo was slammed into the ground by Kenjaku's anti-gravity system in the fight against him. It's considered a divine technique to extend a domain without enclosing the barrier, and it's extremely rare. Although Fushiguro Megumi pulled off a version of this borderless domain, it was less refined than Kenjaku and Sukuna. Domain expansions without borders offer a number of advantages, especially when facing opponents within the domain. A unique feature of Kenjaku's domain expansion, womb profusion, is that it manifests in the real world and affects everyone within a certain area. This makes it one of the strongest domain expansions ever released. As opposed to most sorcerers, Kenjaku and Sukuna are capable of enclosing their barrier without expanding their lethal domain. Simple Domain by Yuki Tsukumo is an anti-domain technique that creates a small area around the user, cancelling out any and all techniques cast within it. Using it offensively is also possible. It's primarily used for defensive purposes, but it can also be used defensively. Simple domains are broken if the feet are not planted on the ground while casting them. Yuki's simple domain began to crumble almost immediately after Kenjaku's domain expansion began. Tenjin, expecting Kenjaku's domain to be dispelled quickly, forced Yuki to attack. Kenjaku was underestimated by Yuki and Tenjin. Tenjin couldn't remove the outer boundary because Kenjaku opened his domain and activated a curse technique without closing a barrier. Despite being faced with two adept sorcerers, Yuki and Choso, Kenjaku was able to cast a second domain expansion in record time. After studying his curse technique patterns, Yuki discovered a blind spot that she intended to exploit during the battle. Nevertheless, Kenjaku's misdirection and trap proved to be successful. He was able to offset Yuki's final attack since domain expansions prevent outside sources of cursed energy from entering. Accordingly, Kenjaku's domain expansion effectively chipped away at Yuki's new shadow style, simple domain, and forced her to adapt her strategy. Although she tried to contain Kenjaku, his unique ability to extend a lethal domain without enclosing it gave him a considerable advantage. Tenjin and Yuki Tsukumo's attacks on Kenjaku were significantly impacted by Kenjaku's womb profusion domain expansion. As a divine skill, Kenjaku and Sukuna are the only ones known to be able to activate their domain expansions without enclosing an outer barrier. As a result, Tenjin could not remove the outer boundary as part of their original strategy. Yuki and Tenjin devised a plan to counter Kenjaku's domain expansion using Yuki's simple domain, allowing Tenjin to analyze and dispel Kenjaku's domain. This strategy was disrupted by Kenjaku's barrierless domain expansion, which immediately chipped away at Yuki's simple domain. Tenjin was unable to dismantle Kenjaku's domain as planned, which forced Yuki to attack without Tenjin's support. The implications of this are profound from a strategic perspective. In a last-minute adjustment of tactics, Yuki attacked Kenjaku directly, hoping to exploit a blind spot in his curse technique patterns. Kenjaku, however, gained the upper hand because he was able to cast a second domain expansion in a short period and assessed Yuki's mass curse technique and converted the battle into one of domains. Tenjin and Yuki were forced to change their tactics by Kenjaku's domain expansion, demonstrating his power and unpredictability. It demonstrates Kenjaku's strategic depth and his ability to outmaneuver opponents who rely on traditional domain expansion tactics that may have broader implications for future battles in the series. In the Jujutsu Kaisen universe, Kenjaku's womb profusion domain expansion has significant implications for future battles. Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine is the other domain expansion without a barrier in the series. As a result, Kenjaku's domain is formed in the real world and affects everyone within a specific area, which he can enlarge. As Kenjaku's domain expands, it can be adapted to suit the situation. According to one theory, he takes over bodies and accesses their abilities. As a result, He would have a wide range of powers and techniques to use in battle, making him an effective adversary. The expansion of Kenjaku's domain is more than merely a matter of power. There is also a strategic component to it. In his current situation, he can choose what type of domain expansion would suit him best. Future battles may benefit from this strategic use of his domain expansion. It is important to note, however, that domain expansion has some risks associated with it. The curse techniques can be burnt out, and the amount of cursed energy Kenjaku has is uncertain. Future battles may be forced to change as a result of Kenjaku's expansion of his domain. Kenjaku's curse techniques were burned out by expanding his domain in the fight against Yuki Tsukumo, for example. The expansion of Kenjaku's domain could have significant impact on future battles, thanks to its powerful and versatile nature. In order for it to be effective, Kenjaku needs to manage the risks associated with it, and his opponents must adapt their strategies accordingly. We discussed the concept of domain expansion in the Jujutsu Kaisen series, focusing on Kenjaku's unique domain expansion, womb profusion. By expanding a domain, a Jujutsu sorcerer can significantly enhance the effects of their curse techniques. During our discussion, we discussed how Kenjaku expanded his domain and how Yuki, Tsukumo, and Tengen played a role in it. In order to drain Kenjaku's curse technique, they planned to force him to use his domain expansion. Tengen was unable to remove Kenjaku's outer boundary because he activated the domain expansion without closing any barriers. It was a horrifying spectacle to see Kenjaku's expansion of his domain, filled with screaming tormented souls, surrounded by mutilated corpses stitched together. In addition, Kenjaku activated a curse technique without closing a barrier, which was a unique characteristic of his domain expansion. In addition to analyzing how Kenjaku's expansion affected Yuki and Tengen's tactics, we also analyzed the strategic implications of Kenjaku's expansion. Even though Yuki's new shadow style, simple domain was carefully planned, Kenjaku's domain expansion quickly chipped away at it. Kenjaku's domain expansion has tremendous power and versatility, which may have implications for future battles. Future battles might be affected significantly by Kenjaku's domain expansion, forcing his opponents to change their strategies. As a result, how well Kenjaku manages the risks and how well his opponents adapt their strategies will determine how effective it will be. We have now finished our deep dive into Kenjaku's domain expansion in Jujutsu Kaisen. The time has come for you to tell us what you think. Is Kenjaku's expansion of its domain a good idea? Which of the future battles in the series will be impacted by it? Is there anything you'd like to share about your theories or insights? Comment below if you have any thoughts. Let's engage in a discussion and hear your thoughts. So join. It has been a pleasure watching with you all. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think of Kenjaku's domain expansion by liking the video, sharing it with your friends, and subscribing to our channel. Keeping you informed about your favorite series is made possible by your support. Keep your energy flowing until next time.